Hey, what's going on? I'm Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today I'm going to be talking about this ridiculous notion that the Jets are going to use their assets to now move up for Trevor Lawrence. But before we get started, I just wanted to mention that you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Also, if you haven't already, please make sure to subscribe to the podcast. New episodes drop every single Monday. So both NJ.com and the New York Post seem to be hopping on the Trevor Lawrence bandwagon. And listen, I get it. Looking at Trevor Lawrence specifically, not even looking about the Jets, just Trevor Lawrence. He is a very, very, very good quarterback prospect. Yes, I think he is going to be someone who's probably going to be a top 10 pick. Probably even higher. You could probably write in top 5 right now. That's what I would say, but top 10 for sure. No doubt about it. He's going to be 21 years old entering the draft. There probably isn't going to be a college football this year, but what he's been able to do at Clemson has been truly phenomenal. And yes, he is going to be a first-round talent. There is no denying that. I don't think he's a bad prospect. Just putting all that out there for context right now. But the notion that the Jets are going to trade up or that they could trade up to draft him makes zero sense for a few reasons, really. But one, how could you possibly expect Sam Darnold to take a step backwards in year 3? All signs are pointing to him taking a step forward. He flashed in year 1 and year 2, no denying that. He hasn't played a full 16 games, which is a slight issue so far, which is why the jury's still out on him in some people's minds. That's fine, but if you project what he was able to do in 13 games last year over a full 16-game season, it was 3,700 yards, 23 touchdowns, 16 picks, and about an 84 passer rating. If he even puts up those numbers projected over a 16-game seasons, I don't move on from him. Sam Darnold is going to be 23 years old this upcoming year. 23. You don't move on from 23-year-old quarterbacks who have showed the promise that Sam has. Yes, it's been small doses. I understand that. He hasn't put it together for an entire season. That's fine, but look at the issues that's been around Sam Darnold in his first 2 years in the league. One, bad offensive line. Last year was arguably the worst offensive line in football. He has 5 new starters on the offensive line for this year. Similar to what Buffalo did last year with Josh Allen going into year 2. A smart move, by the way, even though I'm not a Josh Allen guy. But the Buffalo Bills did a nice job building around Josh Allen and getting him a solid offensive line. That's what Joe Douglas was able to do in his first offseason with the New York Jets this year for Sam Darnold. Another thing against Sam Darnold is the weapons around him. He hasn't exactly had it very easy. When you look at the other 2018 first-round draft picks that play quarterback, outside of Josh Rosen because he's bounced around 2 different teams, it's not really fair, but Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, Cleveland with Baker Mayfield, and Josh Allen with the Bills, all 3 of those teams have done a better job putting pieces around their young quarterback. Sam Darnold hasn't really had that luxury yet in his career. Maybe year 3 will be a little bit different, but he hasn't had that really nice target to throw to outside of a few games of Chris Herndon and about half of Robbie Anderson's career and Sam Darnold's career, when playing together. Last is the coach. Adam Gase hasn't done Sam Darnold too many favors. Yes, he did get a okay stretch of football, but a 22-year-old quarterback had to go to his head coach and say, hey, our offense stinks after the Miami game. What can we do differently? Yes, some people took that as Sam Darnold showing leadership to an extent. I agree. But also, you should be making life as easy as possible for your young quarterback, which isn't exactly what the New York Jets have done. So no, I am in no stretch of the imagination ready to give up on Sam Darnold at 23 years old. Instead of trading up to get a player like Trevor Lawrence, you should use those picks to either A, trade for talent right now, like trading for a Juju Smith-Schuster, an Allen Robinson, someone to make life easier for Sam Darnold for this year, or use that draft capital and draft a Jamar Chase or another offensive lineman and really build around your young quarterback. You don't just blow this thing up because Sam Darnold wasn't drafted by Joe Douglas. And that's another argument that I don't really care for. I think is extremely flawed. Yes, Joe Douglas didn't draft Sam Darnold, but you'd be lying to yourself if Joe Douglas didn't take this job because of Sam Darnold. When looking at the New York Jets roster last year when Joe Douglas took over, there wasn't really a whole lot to get excited about. That's not his fault. It's really Mike Maccagnan's fault. But why do you think he took this position? Why do you think he left the Philadelphia Eagles? He could have waited for positions to open up after the season, did another year as an assistant in Philadelphia, but he decided to take the job with the New York Jets. It wasn't because of Jamal Adams. It wasn't because of C.J. Mosley or Quinnen Williams. It wasn't because of Le'Veon Bell. It was because Sam Darnold is here at a 22-year-old quarterback who, at the time was 22, who flashed in his rookie year at points. That is what you take a job for. He thinks he can build around this guy, and he hasn't really done that to the full extent yet. This year in 2020 is going to be an evaluation year. So you're going to be able to see what certain guys have and which guys you're building around long term. If the Jets struggle, let's say they go 6-10 this year and their offense is stagnant, maybe it's a little improved. Maybe Darnold plays a full 16 games. Let's say he throws 3,800 yards, 25 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. That's not anything phenomenal. That's not brutal. But I would say don't move on from the quarterback at that point. Move on from the head coach and get a real head coach in here for your 23-year-old quarterback, soon to be 24-year-old quarterback. That would make a ton more sense than getting another prospect in here and essentially starting all over. Because if you are trading assets to move up for Trevor Lawrence, then you are not going to have the other draft capital to build your roster around him. Doesn't make sense. You have a quarterback in place who is young. Use those assets to build around your young quarterback. What is so difficult to see about it? I hate that the media is blowing this up already. You have the New York Post, like I said, came out with the story. You had NJ.com come out with the story. It's ridiculous. Let me know in the comments down below if you think it's reasonable for the New York Jets to trade up for Trevor Lawrence. If so, why? Get at me on social media as well. Please make sure to subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.